Hey now, it's Mike Gilbert, host of the Mike and JD Show, right here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Join JD by God Oliva and myself every Thursday night live on the Voices of Wrestling YouTube channel at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we stay up all night discussing all the hottest stories in professional wrestling. You can also check us out right here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting feed, or you can subscribe to the Mike and JD Show feed. Now, enjoy the show.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Hey there, Thunder Buddies and Travellers down Thunder Road. It's us, Days of Thunder, the WCW Thunder rewatch podcast that you didn't ask for, but we did anyway, coming to you as part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network and powered by alargemanappears.com. I am your host, not Dave Ryan. I am, of course, Stagger Lee Malone. And with me tonight is nobody, because I was supposed to have a co-host, but unfortunately, they were unable to make the allotted time tonight, so I will be flying solo because it has been so long since we've had a Thunder show. I thought that it would be time to get back down that Thunder road, but yeah, so here we are, me doing a solo show. Sorry, hang on, I just need to take this call. Hello? No, it's fine. No, I've started the show. No, you don't. No, it's fine. Honestly, you don't need to. No, I know you're busy. It's okay. Yeah, okay, right. I'll send you the call links. Hang on. We'll just restart. I only just started. We'll restart. Hang on.
Whoa, Lee Malone. That's not how we start this shit round here. Hey there, Thunder Buddies and Travellers down Thunder Road. It's us, Days of Thunder, the WCW Thunder rewatch podcast that you didn't ask for, but we did anyway. Coming to you as part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network and powered by alargemanappears.com. I am your returning party host, your Faja upon Thunder Road, the conquering hero, the returning champion, Dave Ryan. And I'm joined, as I am, by the man who there could be no one better to hold the fort in my absence. He is Stagger Lee Malone. Lee, how the fuck are you, buddy?
We are now officially no longer dads or Days of Thunder. We are Dads of Thunder. I was like, fuck it up.
We are the Dads of Thunder.
Oh man, I am so glad to no longer have to host this shit show. Oh
yeah, buddy. It's been a minute.
It's been long.
A minute. The bat signal, the thunder signal was lit over Gotham, and I had to finally answer the call amid a flurry of nappies and bottles and baby grows and shit like that. I said, no, you know what's really important in life?
The Harris
Talk
brothers.
about Norman Smiley and the Harris brothers.
Oh god, yeah, no, it's so good to be back doing a regular Days of Thunder. But I will shout out, thank you so much to Erin, Alan, and Kieran that filled in while you were gone.
Yes, a huge shout out to all the co-hosts. And I like the frequency with which, by the way, Lee, and I do have a list of grievances that are on another device. We will talk about it next week. There was a number of occasions on which you said words to the effect of, well, there's no way Dave is listening to this, but, and I'll tell you, Lee, I was fucking listening. Whether I was in a maternity ward, asleep in the nursery, I fucking don't. It takes a lot to get shit past me, brother. Unless you're trying to DM me on Discord, in which case everything gets past me, brother.
I would imagine that not only you, but I'm sure Emma, who I think also listens, will have a list of grievances for the next time I see her.
Emma doesn't listen when I'm not around. What she does is she hears half the show through the fucking walls. Because when I'm on, I'm on. And I am shouting and roaring in here. She does now. This is probably a little sweet. We will talk a little bit of fatherhood here up the top, just to
Mm-hmm.
warn you all. But she has found in my absence one thing I think I may have said on the show before I left on my paternity leave, my little sabbatical, was that when Emma was pregnant and I was trying to feel the baby kick, if I
Mm.
was speaking, the baby would go to sleep. So there was no kicking if I was talking. I would have to remain silent for quite a while for the baby to start kicking again. This has followed through that the baby is immediately eased by my voice. So I can say, much like the many hundreds or thousands of you out there, Days of Thunder puts my child to sleep too. Um, so there have been some car journeys where an episode or two has been played to calm him down, when he's kind of fighting the sleep.
That's
Um,
amazing. I love that.
yeah, yeah, no, it's pretty nice, and yeah, the whole fatherhood gig is it's a pretty solid one so far. It's there was a lot of chats myself and Lee had off the air. You
Mm.
know, like we kind of back in the days of yore when I didn't have anywhere to go to after a Zoom, we used to chat for a little while before and after the show, and something like a recurring theme when we talk about things maybe I was a little anxious about or things I was excited for and stuff like that was kind of, I'm not quoting you directly, but paraphrasing you when I say like, you don't get it till you get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it,
Oh yeah.
I get it, but like it's not the get it in a bad way because we've been very blessed with how patient and chill and not fussy this child is so far in the near 12 weeks. Can you believe he'll be three
I
months?
fucking can't believe it. Like,
He'll be 3 months very soon. So that's crazy that I've been gone that long. Apart from I did pop up on Patreon there at
mm-hmm.
largemanapears.com recently to do a WrestleMania recap. That was some fucking bullshit, but we'll move on. Um, yeah, it's just wild how like even though he's like even though he's pretty chill in all that time, um, in terms of the yeah, you're tired. What everybody kept saying to me was you're tired, but it's different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that it's like you just get through it. Like if I was this sleepy before he was here, I would not be functioning as a human.
You would just snap and you'd be like, I'm fine then.
Yeah, like, and I will say the level to which I do not give a shite in work now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Welcome to that part of your life.
Since I came back, the idea of stress in my job, no, out the window, out the
Mm-hmm.
window. And Lord, are they trying some days to see if they can reignite that stress? But it's like, man, you ain't got shit on me anymore. I don't give a fuck. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it is great to be back. I'm glad you acknowledged the co-hosts who stepped into the breach in my absence and produced some very fine podcast wares. But of course, the most credit has to go to yourself, Lee, for holding this shit show up in my absence, keeping
I,
us out there.
I will say I fell off towards the end because I really just stopped caring about wrestling for a while.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
We
posts.
kind of had boxed in because we had made a pledge to each other we wouldn't do a numbered thunder without me
Mm-hmm.
because we're getting perilously close to That's the Wall, brother.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to set the expectation we would be doing the numbered episodes because then Lee wouldn't be able to stop that
Yeah.
cycle and maybe I wouldn't be ready to come back by
Mm-hmm.
spring break. And if Lee did spring break without me, that's it. I'm
Oh,
walking,
that's it. Yeah.
folks. I'm walking.
This wouldn't have been a comeback show. It would have been an announcement saying,
Yeah.
well, the show's over.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever about that Cayman Islands account where we store all the millions of Patreon proceeds that we're going to both retire off imminently wouldn't matter. If you did That's the Wall, brother, without me, there's no sum of money making me come back. So given the constraint that we put on you when I left, you brother deserve quite the adult beverage. You deserve to be drinking like it was us recording a podcast in 2020.
Well, one thing I have to say, I did learn in your absence. I actually did go out for one whole night out with a couple of friends and for some adult beverages. It is I cannot handle any more adult beverages.
Oh
Any
wow, you've gone
anything be
totally the other way. We
oh
we
yeah,
genuinely had alcoholism concerns in the early year of the podcast.
anything beyond a glass or two of whiskey now, and I'm just like, nope, can't do it.
Yeah, the era of the podcast kind of like pretty much neatly bookended on our old network because that was pretty
Hmm.
much no deliberate reason for it. It's just we just kind of stopped doing the drinking thing as a bit around the time we moved to VOW.
Hmm.
But like that whole era, there are entire podcasts I don't remember.
Probably for
Um,
the best.
yeah, probably for the best. It was like 98 Thunder. We were really going through it
We were
in
in
our
the
feelings
doldrums.
that year. Yeah, certainly. As
Um,
well as being like locked in because some pandemic thing. I don't know if you heard about it.
well,
Um,
that I think that's a nice segue because speaking of
the
old,
pandemic is a nice segue.
no, I was talking about the old podcasts.
Ah,
Because
yes.
speaking of our old podcast, we do have one thing we need to bring up is that
Oh,
our friends at
fucking
Spotify, Dave,
Spotify. Why this happened? What I was like 1 week into being gone.
pretty much.
I was just like, just when I thought I was out, they dragged me back in. These sons of
Yes,
bitches.
it would have been because the panicked messages I got was definitely pre fatherhood.
Yeah,
Because
because I was
I
like, I
know
don't have the time for this. I think it was the weekend we were going to go in on the Tuesday.
it
And I
could have
was
been
like,
actually.
I've no mental capacity for this right now. And we got takedown notices that basically all our podcasts on the free feed,
Hmm.
I think at this stage, I haven't checked in a while, but a whole bunch of them anyway are gone
From Spotify.
from Spotify. So you will have noticed on the intro to this episode, we've changed the theme song. So if you're not a subscriber on Patreon, you don't follow us on Twitter, where I posted the Patreon post for free. Um, Basically, Spotify, my guess is they didn't so much change the rules as I would say they changed whatever they used to detect licensed music to some sort of AI.
Hmm.
Because we went by the rule of thumb that SoundCloud used to have, where like about a minute of audio was fine. Once you had like a premium account, a premium RSS feed with them. And that seemed to carry through onto our platform holder um under the VOW umbrella. And I will say, in fairness, this is not coming from them. This is all Spotify's
Hmm.
problem. Every episode is still pristine, immaculate on every other podcast app except Spotify, which part of this conversation is going to be by far the smallest proportion of our listeners listen on Spotify, which is also mind-numbingly annoying that like they are making this big a stink about the smallest slice of our audience.
Hmm.
So that's fucking frustrating. But yes, obviously we have since day one had E17 as our intro, and we have had Ghost as our outro,
Hmm.
and we have had Dick Dale and his Deltones as our nitro music. We've had Robert Palmer as our pay-per-view intro. That's all fucking gone now
Yep.
on Spotify. Um, the only solution we can proffer for people who are listening to this, and I don't want to be annoying people on Patreon with this, so I'm going to have a think about how we would do this, maybe in batches. I can upload all the old shows with the licensed music to our Patreon feed, but make them all free posts. So you don't have to subscribe to get. I'm not going to make you pay for content that you already had for free. That's what Nintendo does. So I'm not going to make you do that. So that's something I could do, and I could do it in batches of like I'm going to ask the Patreon subscribers first, like how they would like it done. Would they like me to just rip the band-aid off and put up nearly 100
Hmm.
episodes of Thunder, actually over 100 if you include pay-per-views and nitros, and just do it over the course of a few days? My preference would be we could do like a from the vault every
Five
once every
episodes
month.
every.
I'll put
Yeah.
5 to 10 up, and then
Yeah.
within a year we'll have everything back up. And again, make them all free so that even you could subscribe to the Patreon feed.
Hmm.
That you'll have if you subscribe to the free feed, then you will get all those podcasts, or you will at least be able to go a la carte and like download from Patreon whichever ones you want to listen to. Or if you're one of the psychopaths that listens to podcasts in the Patreon app with that unbelievably bad UI, then you do that. that's my option. The something that was asked of us is if we could put them back up on the free feed. I can't tell you the ways in which that can't happen. A number of ways. The first and foremost, from my perspective, is that you will have noticed in old episodes, a bit of a crossfade between when the music fades out and we fade up. So there's an overlap about 5 to 10 seconds. We don't have the raw separated tracks for those files anymore because that's asking us to keep, at this point, probably terabytes worth of raw
Mm-hmm.
files for 5 plus years that we never thought we'd need again. So I don't like the inelegance of having to cut 10 to 15 seconds off the top of every single episode. Also, the sheer amount of manpower that would have to go into doing that. How many times I can actually check, because I'm here talking, going, oh, it must be something like 100. But if I just go to the Days of Thunder podcast stream, it's 163 times I would have to do that. And that's just for the intro. I would also have to redo the outro and clip that in. That's a little smoother because I don't fade in for the outro.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's still, I would have to do the whatever mess I can do at the intro and then redo the outro 163 times, which is just not something again, I have a child who's nearly 3 months old. That is not something I can promise. I also can't do, like, we've had a few DMs about, could you pop just this one back up, that one back up? That's a slippery slope kind of thing because I don't want to treat people in a preferential way and go, right, okay, you're asking for this particular Nights of Nitro. I'll just put that one up. And then somebody else asked me to go, okay, I'll just put that one up. And then what we have is things re-uploaded out of sequence as well. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Look, if there's some obvious solution screaming at somebody listening to this, like, drop us a DM, let us know. Um, I'm also not inclined to the expense that it would take out of our Cayman Islands account to throw 163 podcasts at somebody and say, hey, fix this, you know? And that's before you
No.
get into the whole. I would then have to go to Rich Craich and say, Rich, you
Hey,
go.
Rich.
Could you go to our good friends at Red Circle, who have been a faultless RSS feed provider for us, and annoy them to say those 163 files, which are working on every other platform,
Need to come
could you
down.
replace them with
Yeah.
these 163 files? I imagine where I would be told to go by said podcast network, podcast platform, not network. I don't think Rich would probably just go, okay, buddy, let's see where we get with that. And then we'd probably be told to fuck off by people that actually know their stuff. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at. People on the Patreon feed, like, going forward, it'll be the old song, but people on the
Mhm.
Patreon feed, I've had no issues reported to me that they're having stuff taken down off the Patreon feed. None of the takedown requests seem to be for the Patreon feed. And as I said, every other podcast platform is still fine.
Yeah.
But we are going to future proof ourselves that everything going forward will still be on Spotify. And should the other platform holders change their criteria for copyright protection, we will have all the episodes going forward protected against that. It will be something we will definitely revisit if, like, say, people can't download on Podcast Addict anymore, can't download on whatever app, whatever your app of choice is. If it starts getting taken down from everybody's feeds, then I'm like, okay, because as somebody who binge watches podcasts, and I know a lot of people who listen to this are podcast
Mm-hmm.
bingers as well. I know it's hard to get into an episodic podcast when you can't
Go back.
get at it,
Yeah.
or like, sometimes, like, I'm somebody that likes to go back to some of my favorite podcasts and listen to old episodes. And, like, for example, the annoyance I have that there is no convenient feed where I can get all the How Did This Get Made episodes anymore, because it used to be on Stitcher's gone. It used to be on, like, Earwolf had their own proprietary platform. I can't seem to access that. So now I just end up listening to random episodes that get posted on YouTube by Paul Shear. um but yeah, that's my cross to bear. So long story short is, like, we hear you, we're annoyed too. There is no solution that I have the manpower to solve quickly, but I am quite happy to do the kind of, throwback uploads in a way that doesn't choke the feed for
Patreon
um
subs.
Patreon subscribers,
Mm-hmm.
because look, I'm a shill. I don't want to annoy the people that are giving us that sweet coin, like.
That is true, and I've always said that they are our most important listeners.
Yeah.
All these people on
But
the free feed can shove it.
I didn't say that. Those are the thoughts of Lee Malone. Lee Malone's thoughts do not represent Days of Thunder.
We are always getting messages like people, new listeners saying, "Oh, I only just found a podcast, and I'm going back through your old catalog." So that is something that does still happen even now. So to have the episodes available for free on a platform will be the ideal. So hopefully that will be what we do on Patreon going forward.
Let's talk about some wrestling. Of course, Lee, no trip to 2000 would be complete without seeing what Uncle Dave had to write. And it's a bit of I don't want to say it's a sparse week because the two lead stories he writes a lot about, but I'm not inclined to get hugely into it. But what I will say is the lead story is the Radical debut.
Okay, of course.
Which we had talked about just before my break. We had done the Knights of Nitro where they debut, and he kind of talks a lot about how even though it's the Malenkos, the Guerreros, and the Saturns of the group were mid-carders, so you mightn't think in your head that it's a huge deal. Not only the addition of Benoit, who had just been world heavyweight champion, but the kind of collective unit of them shifting over. I think even at that time, and maybe I didn't appreciate it at the age of 11, 10, 11, is that even at the time, people were like, this is seismic. This was whatever but the drip feed of, Jericho coming over, Big Show coming over, or whatever, you felt, okay, well, jumps happen. Jumps were still happening from WWF to WCW at that time. This feels like the first kind of people are leaving the sinking ship.
See, I felt even in real time that Jericho was a real, that's a guy that was a mid-carder in WCW coming in and being shown to be a guy that can be at the top of the card. He debuted opposite the fucking Rock. He couldn't get any bigger than that in summer '99. So,
I mean, that felt like a coup rather than somebody running for the hills as a child. Do you know what I mean? I know now it was a little bit of both.
But I do agree that the sight of the rest of the fucking workhorse of the big cards and Benoit jumping at once and showing up on Raw literally the week after they left the company. I can see how the perception there is, okay, this is different, and this is something to really kind of take note of, because if you look at that WCW roster now, it's looking very tired.
Do you think as well, what role or what extent would you credit how much worse the TV has gotten even since the Jericho jump in August? Do you think that there's that perception now? Because even the two of us were kind of maybe kidding ourselves when we were talking about Summer 99, where there are pivot points where this is still relatively salvageable. Do you think this is the one where people are leaving and you combine that with the idea as now we're living on borrowed time in WCW?
If you go back to our conversations, how much of our how many of those pivot points were, okay, it's Benoit Malenko or a tag team. It's okay, Benoit is now getting a singles push as US champ. It's Benoit is now getting pushed up to the upper mid card. It's Benoit is going through this fucking tournament to win the world title.
It's the I mean, how great is this Saturn Raven storyline that
carried us through '98 into the tag team tournament, the tag team revival that we probably should have got at the start of the year. Eddie Guerrero was the workhorse of the whole company in '97. Obviously, '98 he had his issues, but he could still go. He had really discovered his fucking charisma by the time he left the company, the Filthy Animals run. Eddie was right there waiting to be kind of given that push. Obviously, Malenko is Malenko. But God, what a solid hand to have on the roster. And,
Yeah.
it,
I think with Eddie with by the back half of that run, like he's clearly not in terms of. I was actually listening to Joe talk about him on the flagship, where like people kind of and Rich as well. They were like people kind of forget like the first half of that WCW run. Yeah, he's in the ring. No one can touch Eddie,
mm-hmm.
and he's got a lot of physical charisma in the ring. But it wasn't the back half of that run. Really, I think like around the LWO kind of time, where he first got a chance to actually like stretch out those
Yeah.
charisma muscles. And like
Mm-hmm.
I think he was just starting to get to that next level of confidence
Yeah.
right before the accident
Mm-hmm.
and right before they shit canned him. Or let him go, should I say. Um yeah, do you know what, as well? Something that I've been thinking of a lot, and something that Dave touched on when we talked about it last week, is maybe an underrated aspect of all this is obviously the visuals to the fans of these guys jumping, but the utterly demoralizing effect that that has on the people that didn't get to jump, you
Mm-hmm.
know? As like these are the heart and soul of the company. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, they're the bones of the mid card and upper mid card in terms of like the workhorses. If these guys can't catch a break and they have to fucking get the fuck out of here, like what hope do I have? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not getting offered a deal. Like Vince and Jim Ross aren't coming to me looking to poach me.
Like,
Like
look,
what the fuck?
do you think like are Lenny Lane and Lodi gonna get brought into the WWF? Are David Flair and Crowbar? Like
Yeah.
as much as they'll give us moments that we enjoy on the show, they aren't guys that Vince was lining up to take. Conan, he was still over at this point, but
Yeah.
that's fading.
When you look at a year from now, like everybody is so damaged and demoralized that somebody that like maybe a year before this, certainly before his neck injury, like Vince would have cried out for somebody that looked like Buff Bagwell.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Buff Bagwell gets one match after they acquired WCW, and that's
Mm-hmm.
like stunk the place out. We will get to that match
Oh yeah, we will.
that eventually, but you know what I mean. Like, there's so many people in between the status of a Buff Bagwell and the very, very bottom of WCW that was like, I imagine if you were around in January 2000, that's a hard one to come back from in your head. Do you know what I mean? And you're about to see a few power plant guys, rightly or wrongly, start coming up and getting pushed past those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's interesting. I think,
And that goes back to what I was saying is if you look at the roster we have now, pre reboot,
yeah,
it's a
reboot, if
very
you will.
it's a very old roster.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah,
core of the guys being used, that's a very old
yeah.
roster.
And look, remind me to talk about the age when we get to the seeds being planted for the
Mm-hmm.
Millionaires Club later. Okay,
Yeah. I
so I
was
know.
just going to say. I was going to say
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you say later, you mean later in this episode, right? Because
yeah, yeah.
they
Oh,
are
100%.
100% set planting the seeds.
The other big story in the Observer this week, which I'm fucking you gun to my head, I'm not getting into, is an extensive review of the Rock's book,
Nope. No. No.
where
No.
is the
No.
Rock said is it's the second New York Times best-selling wrestler book of the last year. Obviously, after Have a Nice Day, which is an actual good book, um, the Rock says is not. It's very famously not, but holy shit, the gymnastics that Dave is doing, trying not to overly bury it, because him and Dwayne are pals. He's not like he's not trying to make it seem like it's as good as Have a Nice Day, but like the tone I was reading off, you have to try read between what
You have
Dave
to read
says rather
what
than read
they've.
what he
Yeah.
literally
Mm-hmm.
says. I think he kind of like the tone is he did the best he could, and that best wasn't great.
I would imagine that Dave's take on it would have been that Dwayne has a very interesting story, and they went about a different way of telling that story. Yeah.
A pages long review that I have no interest in reading a
No.
single
No.
quote from.
I read that
Um,
book. It's awful.
it is, yeah, yeah. Actually, I'll give a shout out to a podcast I very much love, the Attitude Era podcast, on their Patreon series, The Bibliotech. They did break down The Rock Says. I think it was a three-parter.
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
so those men are bravely going where I won't even read a review of that book, and they read the whole thing. So go give Kevin and Adam a bit of cash for that if you want to listen to an in-depth review of The Rock Says. Or maybe at some stage me and Lee will do like some sort of prop bet where the loser has to do a book report on the show. Um, but from there, we'll go to kind of a whistle stop tour of the big three in the US and their kind of like quick news notes from the Observer just before we get into it. Uh, Everybody in ECW's fucked, Lee.
January, what we February 2000, yeah.
Rob Van Dam, the company's biggest star, looks to be out for up to 8 weeks after just having his broken fibia injury happen. This is the broken leg.
It's a little bit longer than 8 weeks, I believe, Dave.
Yes, happened on 129. He was wrestling Rhino. This is the very famous Brian Alvarez to this day brings it up. And it is a truism in wrestling. I have to say, it's not just Brian Alvarez bluster, is that you will see wrestlers do the scariest fucking spot imaginable and come out of it without a scratch on them. Darby Allin's entire career, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will see somebody do an incredibly basic spot and suffer a horrific injury. And this was the famous, he broke his leg doing a baseball slide.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Um,
well, speaking of horrific injuries, being that we are recording on Tuesday night, did you see Zoe Stark's injury last night?
I didn't see it. I saw some tweets about it. I don't know. I've gotten to the age where if people say it's real bad, I don't look
No,
anymore.
that bone, or it's not like remember when Phoenix's fucking arm exploded on
Yeah. Is it like
Dynamite.
the Pac one?
Um,
Like Adrian Neville against
not
Jericho?
quite, but like you just see the knee and
Going away the knee shouldn't.
the leg beneath the knee goes a different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah. It's
It's
only
not
like a
fun.
3 on the Sid scale.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
graphic. It's just you look at it
Yeah.
and you go, oof, no, no,
I
no,
think I
no,
said it
no.
before. We're not watching that part of that match. We
Oh
are
no,
skipping to the next match. As soon as that man goes to the top rope, I am skipping ahead 5 minutes.
I will not. Do you know what's funny? I've never seen the match in full,
Yeah, it's
so
not exactly a barn burner before that, mate.
I will look away when the injury happens. I'm assuming the camera does not cut back to him.
I genuinely have purged it from my mind because I've only watched the full show once ever. And then obviously, if you were on message boards for any length of time, as soon as people could gift stuff,
Oh, of course, yeah, that was
yeah, of course.
But
Love
anyway,
being jump scared with that on a message board about a completely unrelated topic.
that's a 2029 issue.
Yeah. So Rob Van Dam is injured. Sandman and Just Incredible are both also injured. Actually, no, sorry, no, they're not injured. In fairness to them, they have both have family emergencies. Um, Credible is back this weekend. No word on Hack. Uh, Lance Storm missed some house shows or tapings or something because he needed 8 staples in the back of his head after taking a bump on 127. He was wrestling Dreamer, got whipped over the guardrail, which tipped over as it was expected to, but in taking the bump, the back of Storm's head cracked onto a chair in the audience, which he wasn't expecting to be there. You gotta know that guy was super fucking annoyed about it. New Jack hugely banged up at the moment. Would you believe the cumulative effect of all those balcony dives Dave put in? Yeah, I could have figured that one out, Dave, but thanks. Thanks for that anyway. Although to be fair, the fact that of all those balcony dives, all he's saying is that he needs foot surgery, pretty good at this stage. You definitely would not have expected reading this in 2000 that like old Jerome Young would get over 2 decades of life after this.
And I think at this point, it's probably not in your notes here, but at this point, Spike Dudley is still working on a broken leg.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I suppose also we kind of probably should acknowledge the death of Sabu has happened.
Yeah.
And like we weren't obviously because of the just broadcasting rights and stuff like that. Neither of us were week-to-week watchers during what most people would describe as the peak of ECW, right up until barely legal. But I have always had a massive admiration for this significant. Like, I think Sabu is one of the most significant wrestlers of our lifetime. I don't want to get too deep into it because like Joe and Rich did 3 hours and it's just an unbelievable piece of audio. Like I've listened to it. It's incredible.
I've said it to Rich and Joe. It's probably their best full show they've put out. I think the Paul Orndorff obit they did a couple of years ago was probably
great.
Their best bit of clipped audio. Like if you took that as a segment.
Do you know how good the Orndorff obit was? Is that I started. Do you remember I was talking about it on the show for a while? I was watching Paul Orndorff, and I never thought I'd be a Paul Orndorff guy, but I am.
Well, yeah, no, the Orndorff bit they did, but the Sabu episode, it's incredible, and props to them. But yeah, no, I saw one of the guys in the VOW Slack put it as there was wrestling pre-Sabu, and then there was wrestling post-Sabu. And in the history of wrestling, there's maybe a handful of people you could say that about. That they fundamentally changed how wrestling is viewed and how wrestlers go about their job.
Whether they know it or not, every wrestler who has done a hardcore match, a street fight, any sort of plunder match you can imagine has ripped off Sabu. Yeah. And like there are playlists flying around on Twitter and places like that. So, and I've seen some in the VOW Discord as well. So like go treat yourself to some Sabu. Like again, I tweeted it as soon as the news broke that like he's one of those. There literally will never be another Sabu.
Oh, there can't be, just because of the way the world is.
Yeah, there just can't be. And like in terms of long-term health outcomes, it's not necessarily strictly a bad thing that no one's out there being Sabu anymore. Because like again, we have had this tragic death at the age of just turned 61. So like that's no age to go. Should have been with us for a lot longer, but again, that lifestyle, it's not for longevity.
Yeah, 100%.
Here's a little one that'll pop you from ECW news. Jado and Gato from FMW are coming in to work with Storm Incredible for the tag team titles on 3-4.
And they do.
So you better. Yeah, they do. Storm has wrestled both many times in Japan and has been pushing personally for this match. Eric Watts is still at this point scheduled to work ECW TV, so I know you're excited about that. And you'd want to get a snapshot of how quickly the American legal system works, Lee. There is a civil trial set for the middle of February regarding a spectator in the front row who was injured by a burning chair during the October 28th, 1995 arena match with Cactus Jack and Terry Funk.
That went to the year 2000. Holy fuck.
Yes. Neither man is in that company anymore. And in fact, Terry Funk has gone through WWF and WCW at that time.
And returned to ECW.
Returned to ECW.
I don't know. Maybe 5 years from now in 2030, we'll be hearing about that woman that Austin ran over at WrestleMania.
Jesus Christ. I don't even think I got into that in my review. There was so much to give out about on those 2 days of fucking diabolical programming that I don't think the near vehicular manslaughter made the cut on my show.
I don't know. I know you don't watch it, but have you seen the Botchamania that followed WrestleMania?
I haven't watched Botchamania. It's not to say I don't watch Botchamania. It's I kind of fell off the routine of watching it quite a long time ago, and I loved Botchamania. But it's just when you fall out of, there's so much stuff to keep up with that when you fall out of it, I get a great time for Matthew and what he does, but there's just too much content overload.
There was fan footage of Austin missing the ramp on the way up to the stage.
I've seen that, and he got stuck, and that's why he took ages to come out. I have seen that footage. Yes, incredible. WCW news, a little bit of a sad one to start. I won't get too deep into it either, and that's just we talked about it when we knew he had passed, but just the official cause of death for Bobby Duncombe Jr. being an overdose of a drug called Sentinel, which is a painkiller. Being in there, and that's very sad. And just in terms of WCW deaths, it just reminded me as well, like Mongo has passed since the last time we recorded.
Yes. I think when he became very ill, we did talk about him.
Yes. When his diagnosis became public about a year ago, maybe.
Look, The man lived an incredible life. He got to be a fucking NFL
He
Super
lived an
Bowl
incredible
champion.
life before he looked at a wrestling ring.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like,
fucking Super
he's an
Bowl
all
champ,
timer.
Super Bowl champion. Married a fucking beauty pageant winner. Um, got to then be part of the wrestling business. It was part of a WrestleMania main event. Was a fucking one of the first commentators on Nitro that fucking changed the industry. He was part of the Four Horsemen. He was a singles champ. He fucking like just dream fucking life. And then he went on to do incredible charity work for years and years. And yeah, even with his illness, ALS, wasn't it? He has raised awareness and just done an awful amount of great work
and just got into
the
thankfully
Football Hall
before
of
he
Fame.
passed,
Yeah.
got into the Football Hall of Fame, which is well deserved. I think like we're not going to, again, I've always said, like, I'm never in the business of rewriting history. I'm not going to come
Mm-hmm.
out there and say that he was a great or even good wrestler.
He wasn't,
But
but
one thing I will always say about Mongo, it's goddamn that was a cool man,
mm-hmm.
because like even though he was bad in the ring, you just got the sense of, ah man, I don't give a fuck, I'm Mongo. Like, look at me.
Um,
Look at a
and
million bucks there.
I'm sure you heard the flagship. I love Rich's story about, being fucking 13, 14 years old, meeting Mongo talking about, nights out with Ric Flair, and
Yeah,
then like his friend's sister being with Mongo like 2 years later and saying, it's the kids from Chicago.
incredible.
Yeah.
Other quick news notes from WCW to explain the absence of certain people on the show. Nash had suffered an apparent ankle injury on 130, getting out of a car and slipping on ice. He underwent surgery on 131 and had a plate put in by Dr. James Andrews, and should be out of the ring for about 6 weeks, although he will allegedly be back on TV by the next set of tapings.
It's
Which is,
about as
I think this was published the Sunday night. So he'll either be back on the Nitro in between this show and the next show, or on the Thunder. We will cover next on Thunder 99.
that injury sounds about as believable as mine.
The Nitro show had to be totally redone at the last minute, would you believe? The one we reviewed last, because both Nash and Buff Bagwell were heavily figured into the show and neither were there. Reports were that Nash was going to beat Sid for the title. So that might explain why they just redid the Thunder, giving him the belt.
Oh, wow.
They did the belt thing twice in 1 week, is that they
Mm-hmm.
were planning to give it to Nash, and then Nash. Now that makes me think that the injury is legit, because I would totally, if the plan was for Nash to do a job and he got an ankle injury slipping on some ice, I'd be like, okay, fucko.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like he was due to win the world title and he had an ankle injury, I'm like, okay, maybe you're actually hurt.
With that guy, you can
Um,
never tell.
yeah. A scary stat that will go ignored. Over the past 2 years, 6 touring WCW wrestling personnel have passed away, only one of which, Brian Hildebrand, was from natural causes. There are 3 apparent drug deaths, an auto accident, and a suicide rounding out that list. That would be roughly 25 times higher than the national average of people in a similar age group.
Fuck.
So, like, Dave was on this shit long before Mark Miro had a list on Nancy Grace 7 years after this. Dave was
Fuck.
on, hold on, there's a lot of these guys in their 20s and 30s fucking dying all over the place. Maybe this wrestling lifestyle is not good.
And many of them contracted to this company. Fuck.
Yeah. And then you think about like how many that are still on or have recently left this roster are also
Mm-hmm.
dead. It starts getting pretty scary. Pretty scary. Scott Hall never did have his knee surgery while he's out of action. So he left to get knee surgery, didn't get it, and now he's back on TV. So he's questionable for the pay-per-view. I think we were talking about him recently, because we're like, I can't recall him being here this late in '99 and into 2000. Steve Regal just got sacked by
Okay.
WCW, so he will be appearing not that long from now over across T'other
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted noted that this is in reference to our main event tonight, I believe. In that Thunder handicap match, Sid Vicious was winning crossface as the least believable looking submission hold of the year. Um, okay, I'm not going to read that next bit because that is very obvious, and we will get to that. But backstage at Thunder this week were Brian Johnson from New Japan and Don Fry, motherfuckers.
No,
We talked about Don Fry a couple of weeks ago.
we
I'm just
did.
like, man, if Don Fry, I tell you, new boom period for WCW if they'd strapped up Don Fry. Fuck Tank Abbott.
I was just
You
gonna say we
strap
could have
up
got Don
Don
Fry
Fry.
Tank Abbott pay-per-view
Oh
match.
man. Um, Fire, real name Terry Byrne, has been publicly complaining about her firing. She stated her contract was to be a dancer, not a physical performer, and was fired when she turned down those types of scenarios. I guess since it was the only good angle in the company, they've dropped the DDP versus Bagwell feud, which I didn't think was good at
No,
all,
it
Dave.
wasn't. It was an awful
Much to the
angle.
chagrin of chagrin of both guys. Hey, with Mark Coleman, speaking of MMA fighters, Mark Coleman turned down a WCW offer to come in, shoot an angle where he called Tank Abbott a sellout on the LA Nitro and later put Abbott over, probably at the pay-per-view. It's like this is weird how early WCW seem to be trying to get on the MMA train. Like I know fucking Ken Shamrock has just finished
Mhm.
his run in WWF, but like I think they got in him, they got in Dan Severn, and they tried to do Brawl for All. Went, oh no, that's enough of that for us. Whereas
Mhm.
WCW are just like ramping up how much they want to be involved with it, which is kind of wild. Kevin Green, WCW alumnus, retired from pro football this month as well. Um, it has been reported over in WWF now. It has been reported that Undertaker has suffered a torn pec and will be out of action for another 4 months, which is pretty much accurate because it's into February now. He returns just shy of 4 months away at Judgment Day
Yes, he
2000.
does. Yeah.
Bugger Red himself. There may also have been a sleight of hand at the pay per view as it regards barbed wire. Cactus Jack took shots from real barbed wire. Um, After the ref gave it to the Spanish announcers, they may have done a switch and used fake barbed wire, like is used in WCW, for the shots that Helmsley took. So Cactus Jack took real barbed
Wow.
wire, and then they swapped it out for old Paul
Fucking hell.
Howard to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that's kind of all I've got here. Um, just like minor news notes. It's not the biggest
No.
weekend ever. Shall we get to it?
Let's get to the Thunder. We've been a long time waiting
Okay,
for this.
been a while since we stretched these muscles out. This is Thunder Edition 98 from Binghamton,
Think-
Binghamton,
Just
Binghamton.
letters that should not go together in a word.
Yeah, somewhere in New York that Vince wouldn't run. USA, 2nd of February 2000. 2.3 rating, down by point 0.4, which was by the way, point 0.4 was the entire bump they got last week after
Mm-hmm.
the Sid title run on a relatively hot Nitro. So they've completely erased that within 1 week. Good work, guys. Um, we do get a lot of replays on this show, which I did appreciate as somebody who was I fuck going back and watching
No.
the last couple of shows to remind myself. So it was nice to get some refreshers here and there. We are reminded that the NWO 2000 are running things, even though apart from that one pay-per-view commercial, they have yet to be referred to as the NWO 2000 on television. Um, and we are reminded as well that Funk had his cup of coffee as the president and is now out.
Commissioner,
Um,
sir. Commissioner, not president.
Commissioner, sorry, it's hard to remember. Like, was he the director of?
J. Dillon is still president.
Oh, of course, of course. Well, is he not the lead of the championship committee?
Or that one, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he said like I don't know.
Nick Lambros is still around as well, don't
The
forget.
Glambros, yeah, yeah. Tony says it's hot outside. It's hot inside, frigid outside as the cage hangs overhead. So we will have some caged heat later on tonight. The NWO out straight away because it's 1998 all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, oh my God, Scott Hall. He's lost his fastball. He can't get the hey yo out. Oh man, I really felt for him.
Well, I mean, he's injured, so.
Yeah, he's injured. Yeah, he needs the full strength in both of his legs to do a hey yo. Um, this seems to me like one of those. Right, it's a combination of two things, and it probably is the combination. And it's not one or the other. Is a combination of they're doing a dumb bit that's not funny because no one's in on it, right? That he's not saying the hey yo, that he's stumbling and stuttering around trying to do the hey yo. And then I think there's some of that old school wrestler psychology is like, I'm not going to do the catchphrase they like because we're trying to be heels. But that doesn't work because they're also trying to look cool at all
Yep.
times.
They're also, egging the fans on to cheer for them. Do you know who wasn't getting any cheers in this segment, Dave?
Who's that?
Scott Steiner.
Scott Steiner, man, what's happened? Like,
He is not dialed into this Big Papa Pump character yet. Like his
no,
catchphrases
he
are
will.
not there. He gets there
He will
very
get there.
soon.
Yes.
But he is not all there yet.
He's not. I'd say he's not all there. Yeah. But he's not. Yeah, he's not all there with the character. He is firmly entrenched in the like. He is trying to put over huge that he's called Big Papa Pump on these shows now, and there are starting to be some signs. So we know it is catching on slowly. But like you said, the reactions aren't there. The pops aren't there.
I'm pretty sure he calls Medeja something other than Medeja.
Yeah, now it was still louder than Karrion Cross coming out on main event, but that's besides the point.
No, people are saying he's getting a push, Dave.
So I've heard. So I've heard. Um, Jeff Jarrett is now acting commissioner in Kevin's absence. Reminds us all that he will be the next world heavyweight champion at Super Brawl. He says, Sid, you're not going to defend the title again before February 20th, but I will make your life a living hell. So tonight, this is like somebody got this triple threat theater idea about 6 months ago.
Is this
and
the
man, they are
fourth
determined
time?
to run it into the fucking ground. Yeah.
This is either the third or fourth time this has happened now since.
Yeah. So he will have a submission match with well-noted submission machine Mike Rotunda, the captain.
Well, he is part of the
Then
varsity club.
Yes. Then he will have a hardcore match with Rick Steiner, a man who showed nothing but contempt for association with the hardcore division. And then a cage match with the Harris brothers. And this was the point at which I actually had to check my running order and check my previous notes because I was like, Sid is main eventing in a cage and there's a Harris brother there. Did I not just watch this episode of Thunder? But what they've done is they've actually even downgraded further because the match I was thinking of was a triple threat that was Nash and a Harris brother and Sid from last week. So they've somehow gone, do you know what? I think we can make that main event even worse. And they do, but we will get to it. A sign of the times in WCW Lee. Did you notice the announce table on this show?
Was it just a table?
It's just a normal table covered in a tarp. Man.
Now, maybe it's because they knew they were doing a bit with Sid.
But that's it. They're fucking broke, so they don't want to pay for a new proper announce table. So we then get a flashback to Nitro, including Norman Smiley getting trapped in the preposterous sarcophagus. A white limo appears. Fuck me, this company and the white limos and the white Hummers. Fuck off. Especially because I've real bone to pick with this, right? Like you do, right? There are two reasons you would do the tease, right? Because they come back to this limo 4 times, maybe.
I didn't count.
They show it 3 to 4 times. And on the third or fourth occasion, the person comes. It's Hogan, right? Hogan gets out.
Yeah.
Okay. You do the repeated teases of the limo for 2 reasons. One, you have to play up the mystery that no one knows who's in there. Or you do what I thought they were going to do at first. It was like, oh, well, they keep saying it's Hogan, so it's someone else. You know what I mean? Those are the 2 reasons you do the repeated teases. It's either to build the expectation of, oh, who could it be? I better stay tuned to find out who it is. Or you do the swerve of like, we're all assuming it's one person, so we drop our guard. And then it's the big surprise. It's fucking Brett's back, or it's fucking Flair's here. We thought it was going to be Hogan and it's Flair. Or fucking Bill Goldberg has made up with the limo that nearly killed him. And it drove him to the arena. Something like that. But like I was pretty pissed, I'm not gonna lie, not only to have to look at fucking Hogan's stupid fucking face, but because they over-egged it so much. I was like, oh, it's actually going to be a cool little surprise and not Hogan. I put too much faith in WCW. I've been away too long, Lee.
Yes,
That's the problem. I would have assumed that it was going to be shitty if I'd remembered.
if you were locked in the way you used to be, Dave, you would have
Yeah,
known
yeah.
to be not to build yourself up to be disappointed.
If this goddamn son of mine didn't return some joy and hope to my heart, I would have still been the cynic I was and gone, well, this is clearly going to be horseshit.
Well, look, it could have been worse. It could have been worse.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we don't know. He might have been in there as well.
That is true.
That's like your post-credit, like MCU teasers, like you do that. You roll credits on Thunder and then go back out to the yard, and Horace steps out. Horace will return.
Yeah, God.
The Harris brothers, they bring Slick into Jeff's office. Now, I do like, with crooked refs, there's like the crooked ref storyline is always like the ref trying to insist that they're not crooked, or like the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and stuff like this. There's literally an exchange of dialogue here that I thought was refreshingly
I thought it was
blunt,
brilliant. Yeah, this is the best segment on the show.
Jeff just looks at Slick and goes, "Can you be bought?" And Slick, without hesitation, just goes, "Hell yeah."
I believe Jared opens up by going, I'm open for business, so I have one question for you. Can you be bought? It's great.
Amazing. No notes, flawless.
Yeah.
The best piece of financial advice I've ever received is to pay yourself first. That's why now with every paycheck I receive, I start by putting a little bit away for those rainy days. Today's episode is sponsored by Acorns. Acorns is a financial wellness app that makes it easy to start saving and investing for your future. Acorns lets you get started with the spare money you've got right now, even if all you've got is spare change. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns recommends a diversified portfolio that can help you weather all of the market's ups and downs. Using Acorns, before I knew it, I had a couple $1,000s in a little nest egg account. Sign up now and join the over 14 million all-time customers who have already saved and invested over $25 billion with Acorns. Head to acorns.com/BBM or download the Acorns app to get started. Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 1 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/BBM.
He is now appointed the referee for Super Brawl with Sid. Next up, we have the Demon Derby. As the Demon faces the Screaming Demon, Norman Smiley, Demon Civil War. I realized something during this entrance. So did you notice the entrance of the preposterous sarcophagus?
Yes.
And did you think to yourself, was Alistair Black watching his Dale Torborg tapes? Because the preposterous sarcophagus pioneered the raising up like Dracula entrance. I found that very interesting indeed.
Yeah, it's just another genius idea from the mind of Paul Levesque.
Yes.
The
no man
master
is ever truly good. No man is ever truly demon. If I was Dale Torborg, I'd be fuming.
Maybe Dale Torborg has reported to his local police and is insisting somebody has stolen his gimmick again.
Okay. Stop. No, I'll start going again because I haven't thought about that segment in 3 months. I can't derail. Anyway, it's all Demon early. He basically just strips Norman borderline nude to start this match.
Yes.
Stomps and choking
hang on.
punching
did you just say it's all Demon?
Yes.
Yes, the whole match is all Demon. Yes.
It is. Yes, it's Demon versus Demon. It's a Demon off.
It's demon on demon violence. That's what the match is.
But it is again. I hate it, because again, he's so fundamentally sound. I have no real issue with his wrestling, but it is, as I have dubbed it, the normula, where it is 90% screaming and selling, and then he does a move and wins. It's the same thing every time, except he's just wearing that sillier gear this time.
That is the essence of Norman in WCW. He gets beaten up, he screams, he puts on the chicken wing.
And again, there's a lot of, I don't want to take away from the idea of having a formulaic match. There are many wrestlers who do. People often talk about, and we've mentioned on the show before, Ric Flair, one of the greats in the ring. There was a type of Flair match. Brett, had a Brett match. And you plug different bits in and out, but largely speaking, it was nuts and bolts, the same formula. You could tell when Brett put together a match from a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is they had a formula and they made good wrestling matches out of it. Norman Smiley has developed, I will say, for him in terms of like stealing a living out of this company that deserve to be pilfered for all their money. He has developed a formula that involves him just selling, like basically lying down on the mat for 3 or 4 minutes, taking mostly very safe bumps, even when there's
Mm-hmm.
plunder matches, and then hitting a move and getting a push out of it. So, like, one of the all-time workers in a way.
Yeah, and that man is still employed to this day
Yeah, yeah,
in Shawn Michaels PC.
yeah. Lenny and Lodi are now in their fifth or sixth rebrand.
Yes,
And do you get the joke, Lee?
they're too much.
No, they're the Hardy Boys now.
Oh, is that what it is?
This is Dave, the bit I skipped over in the observers. They're trying to do a Hardy Boys bit. So that's why they're
I thought
called
they were
Two
doing it.
XS instead of Two Extreme.
I thought it was too cool because they were too much first, and then
No,
they were
no.
too cool.
They're because
So
they have the
they
tie
got the bit
dye.
wrong.
They have like they have the shades. They are trying to do. I can't even remember what fucking
I did know they were in the rave shorts, but that's just how Lenny Lane dresses.
yeah. Oh God, fuck. I think I wrote it down later. One of them has renamed themselves as well.
Idol, yeah, Idol.
Idol. Yeah, yeah. That's it. Yes.
Instead of
Sorry.
Lodi, he's now Idol.
I was
Get
just,
it?
I think what happened was my eyes rolled so hard they fell out of my head, and I was trying to
Mm.
grab them off the floor when they discussed the Idol rebrand. Um, Sid on a mad one shouting to the sky as he walks to Gorilla. The limo continues to be monitored for the definite arrival of Hulk Hogan. And then we get a non-title submission match. Like, this is one of those, right, where you're doing a draft show
Mm.
and you have a stip match you have to do, and you're down to your last two names, and you never would have put them in this stip match, but here they are nonetheless. A submission match, Mike Rotunda versus Sid Vicious.
Yeah, that's kind of a pretty accurate description of what this match would be.
And
Um,
Sid has his number one fan in the crowd, this L one, that he gives a big warm embrace to, which is
mm.
nice. Sid bigger with the grannies than Wayne Rooney on a cold night in Manchester. Um, I'll tell you one thing, Lee. I don't know how the captain, Mike Rotunda, he has updated his varsity club gear, but has become more dated in doing so because he's going to a more kind of like basketball is obviously the big thing at
Mm.
the end of the night. He started 2000s, and it's a much more kind of like evocative of high school basketball,
Mhm.
collegiate basketball uniform he's got on. But he looks like he's come from 20 years even further back in the past than if he'd just worn his gear from 10 years ago. I don't know how that works. Is he a time traveler?
I mean, look, yeah.
The
I mean,
shorts are absurd for a start. Like it's those proper old. Like one thing I will say in terms of going for the retro uniform, like this is the pre 90s redesign of like the baggy shorts and stuff like that. This is like he's wearing a pair of budgie smugglers. Like
see, I thought he had the Syracuse basketball shirt, but I just thought he had his actual singlet underneath it.
oh, he may well have done, and it just looked like a tiny pair of shorts.
Yeah, I don't think he had the O'Neill's fucking
It
1980s
was
gas shorts on.
it was fucking. He should have by comparison. This is like this is unacceptable. He looked like shit. Like he really looked. I'm not gonna.
It's Spike Rotunda. Post
Yeah, I know.
1994, he looked
Look,
like
I
shit.
know. Yeah, look, I know. Well, don't fucking have him on my TV then. If you don't want me to say he looks like shit, don't put him on my fucking TV. Is what I'm saying. Um, he takes Sid down to stretch him out with a figure four and STF, and it just felt like Mike Rotunda was put in there, and he's just, what are all the submissions I know that I'm not associated with personally? This
did
works
you
for maybe 60 seconds, by the way. Come on.
did you notice that on Rotunda's figure four that Sid turned too early. So Sid was on his stomach while Rotunda was still lying on his back, trying to,
Yeah, yeah,
lock in the figure four.
yeah. Sid gets impatient, hits him with a choke slam. Mike cuts him off, but then Sid applies the crossface, and that's something I had forgotten. Is that from the night Benoit left, Sid just decided he was doing the crossface.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, fair enough. I think by the time the reboot happens, he's all but abandoned that. So like, it's a momentary flight of fancy. I don't remember him. I remember it just like as a child post reboot. I just remember big boot, choke
Mm-hmm.
slam, power bomb. I don't remember him doing until he started doing the crossface like in January. I'd forgotten he ever did the crossface.
Yeah, I don't think it is something that lasts.
Vampiro nearly made me want to put my head through the wall because it reminded me how 2000 WCW this is by saying everybody, including the people on the internet, want to know what's up with Vampiro. And again, here's the thing where, and you hate to give credit to ISIS, but you can't ever blame just Vince Russo for talking about the internet fans and appealing to the internet and stuff like
Mm.
this. Russo's currently gone,
Yeah.
benched, iced, whatever you want to say.
I
And
don't
they're
know.
still doing wink, wink, nudge, nudge, internet.
You can't say iced anymore. That's something totally different in the States now.
Yeah, it's true, 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 true.
Um, yeah, no, it's like it's that whole booking committee: Sullivan, Graham, Bischoff, Russo. They're all one of the same at this point.
Dickheads, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's kind of wild then. So they do a recap of the Cruiserweight tournament. And I don't know.
I totally forgot we were in the midst of a cruiserweight tournament.
This is what I was gonna say, right? They are giving, because I remember this, like, because it's not the first recap they've done, and they're giving prominent TV time to recapping the tournament and then doing a tournament match on these shows. But they're giving a lot of TV time and adding a lot of context and making sure you're keeping track with the tournament while also giving the overwhelming feeling that no one should give a fuck about this tournament. I don't know how you can do both those things at the same time. It's like that kind of double think 1984 shit, where like
Mm-hmm.
two things are true at the same time, even though they shouldn't be. They should be contradictory to one another. Um,
Yeah.
we do get our cruiserweight title tournament quarterfinal match. Shane Helms versus Shannon Moore. 3 count. Our beautiful boys are at war with one another. And it was
Yeah.
interesting trying to watch two men glistened to the tits in their boy band gear having a backyard match for 4 minutes. These guys clicked into Omega mode in their head for a
Mm-hmm.
while. A very serviceable little match, I have to say.
You look, it's probably the best match we'll see for a couple of weeks on the show.
Weeks.
But yeah, it was fun just watching these guys go, yeah, let's go out and just have a fast paced kind of cruiserweight style matchup while Evan Courageous is on commentary going, yeah, no, we're not breaking up. It's just a match.
It's one of those where you can tell whether like Shane and Shannon are two guys you rate or you don't rate. You can always tell when there's guys in there with each other that have chemistry, that
Mm-hmm.
know each other, and don't have to. I imagine there was very little in terms of chat before this match. You know what I mean? I'd say they just went, fuck it, we'll just do our bits. Like we know our bits.
Yeah.
Um, I will say, right. So a couple of bits on this. Uh Evan Courageous. How a man with the name Evan Courageous, who's again also greased the tits and in a boy band, can sound like such a fucking southern dandy at the same time is so fucking strange. But he's on comms for this, and he wants before he got on, he assured ladies not to panic, they're not breaking up. Said you can guarantee a bonus performance afterwards. Um, there was a great Tony, just a kind of like instinctive one liner where he says, our record went, Evan goes, our record went platinum. And under his breath, Tony goes, went plywood, which was, I thought was very good. Um, Shannon hits, I think, a shoot crossbody block in the middle of this because like he nearly went clean through Sugar Shane on this. Like he
Mm-hmm.
put a bit of fucking stank on that cross body block, I have to say. Shannon gets the win in what was a pretty decent match.
Yeah,
But we are mercifully cut away before the bonus performance we were promised.
yeah, we get Shannon wins with the backslide, which is, you know what? It's interesting to see that they thought Shannon was going to be the breakout star. I'm assuming
Yeah.
that's why he's gone further in the
Yeah.
tournament.
I think that's like part of the story of Shane Helm's career is just like people not really getting that he was pretty fucking talented. Do you know what I mean? Like, where if he didn't stumble into the fucking hurricane, like where he would have ended up, like he's definitely getting cut by the end of the invasion.
Oh, he's in TNA in 2003. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And like fair play to him. You know, he pivoted, managed to make a hell of a career in a company that should not have rated him remotely. Like, yeah, comedy character, but fucking a comedy character that I'd say sold fucking bags of merch.
yeah, and he's still there now.
Yeah. And like again, there's some indelible memories of like him and fucking heel Hollywood Rock interacting and shit like that. And yeah, like you said, he fucking parlayed it into a job effectively for life there. Um we go to the NWO office. Because it's time for our weekly dose of sexism. Medusa wants to be wrestling. Jeff's response to her wanting to wrestle is to point out to her, but you're a woman. Scott takes a big wind up to set himself up for an even more sexist joke. And whatever he was going to come out with, you know it was going to be bad because Jeff Jarrett cut him off.
Yeah, I think Jeff Jarrett went, whoa, 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 let's not say that.
Yeah. Back to the limo and fucking stunned out of my chair.
You missed the most important part.
Okay, go for it.
Jarrett said, okay, we'll do a women's division.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do women's division. Don't hold your breath, folks. We will return to that.
I was just going to say, we'll revisit that later.
Yeah. For those of you with great hope in your hearts now who don't know what happens next, please do not get yourselves excited. Yes, back to the limo and shock of shocks. Like I said, out of my chair. It was Hulk Hogan in the limo.
So do we have to believe that Hulk Hogan was sitting outside the arena in a limo for 40 minutes while the show went on?
In full gear.
Yes.
Full wrestling gear. And what I find very funny is that they also show him leaving the building later, but he's changed.
Yes.
Which is great. He comes to the arena in full gear, stays for 40 minutes in the limo in full gear, gets out in full gear, does a promo, doesn't wrestle, tears off his shirt, and then has a full outfit change before he gets right back in the car and fucks off. And again, it was one of those things where in a good wrestling company, they show you him getting in the limo and speeding off because he's going to return triumphantly to help Sid at the end of the show. No, he actually is gone. Anyway, Gene says, it basically tells Hogan, you've been lying on this beach the whole time. Why are you back? Hogan is fully Brother Jack. I am glad to be back. This is not Hollywood. This is full. We have wound the clock back 5+ years. Trying to cash in on the last little bit of babyface juice he has.
Well, you say that.
Yeah.
But,
I guess, yeah, he still has that WWF run.
They make Hogan versus Luger official for Super Brawl. That's first of all.
Yeah.
Hogan, then one of the first things he says in this promo, well, first coherent things, is that he was sat home and he called up Goldberg and he called up Sting and they got together and had a little conference call and they all shit on the business.
Yeah.
And all the young guys coming up and they all came
and the writers.
Yeah. And they came to the conclusion that the whole business is shit.
Yeah. And he's really trying to push this, like, in so many ways that we don't have time to get into. He reminds me of Trump because Trump has this tick where when he comes up with something that he thinks is funny or catchy, he will say it 1,000 times. And that's what Hogan is doing here. He has this like line about comedy of wrestling. that wrestling's been turned into a joke, the sport he loves. It's a fucking funny way to treat a sport you love. You treat it with nothing but contempt for so fucking long. Anyway, um, yeah, he says him, Sting, and Goldberg all agree everybody in this company is shit. All the writers are shit. Fuck you. Basically. He also says that Ric Flair feels the same as him. That Rick had his speech recently about wanting to take the business back. So this is the Millionaires Club origins. Um, and again, it's another thing where you to give credit to ISIS, but like the path is being laid quite a bit in advance that the good guys are the old guys telling you the young guys are shit.
But they're absolutely setting them up to be healed, right?
No, because like Hogan's babyface.
Yeah, I know, but he's saying Flair is right and Flair is a heel.
Yeah, but he also mentions Goldberg and Sting, who are baby faces,
I
and he's
know,
wrestling Luger, who's a heel.
I know, but like in my
No, Lee, no. I know what you're going to try to say, but no,
because
they think they're baby faces.
I don't think they do. I genuinely don't think they do.
I
I think
don't know, Lee.
something changes between now and the reboot where they
But yeah,
flip.
fucking Russo comes back for a start.
Well, yeah, that's one part of it. But I do think up from now until the reboot, the big setup is here's this bunch of asshole millionaires who are trying to keep
personnel
down
changes a little bit as well of the Millionaires Club, because like Lex is on their side by the reboot, and so is Sid, and Hogan's not really around.
Well, Sid would be the one that never goes full asshole.
Yeah,
but
and Paige is with them as well. Sorry, by the reboot. I was trying to think there's somebody else, another big name who's there.
Paige, and I think Nash was there as well on the reboot as well.
Yeah, might well have been.
Yeah, just yeah, fucking yeah. It's like it's February, and you can see them laying the seeds for this.
I think what's clear is I don't think they actually, like, if I was to be honest, like, I know I'm doing the bit of like having it up, like, no, they're clearly baby faces. I genuinely think the actual answer is they don't know, because there are clear baby faces in this group. Like Hogan is full baby face right now. Bill Goldberg is still full baby face. Sting is a baby face, right? Because again, you think about Sting, the tease is that he's coming back to beat the shit out of Luger, who is definitely a heel right now.
Yes.
But at the same time, we know from reading The Observer that the whole point in bringing the varsity club back is to align them with the vets. And the varsity club are clearly fucking heels. You know? But then they're also feuding with other guys who should be in line for the Millionaires Club, again, like Sid. You know, it's all over the fucking place. It is all over the place.
And you know, you have we'll see him soon on the recap here. Is you have Aaron talking about taking down the NWO and saving WCW, while the two people he's in between are just going, these all fucking youngsters are pieces of shit.
Yeah. And you have, like, that's the other thing, like the other corner you've written yourself into again is the NWO, where you like, if you're going to do young people versus old people, you have Jeff Jarrett, who is going to become a face of the new blood, stuck in with Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, like even Scott Steiner, like
Scott Steiner, hot new youngster in fucking the year 2000.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's fucking, it's disgraceful. Anyway, when he turns his attention to Lex, he said Lex has been hiding behind his woman. I thought the one that cut a little bit too close to the bone was he called Lex a one-time main eventer. Which I thought was a little bit, a little bit of extra spice on that one from the Hulkster.
I didn't catch that one, but yeah, that's a little bit close to the bone.
Yeah. Lex comes out, calls Sting a coward for not coming out, even though he's called him out multiple times, when a man not called Sting appears in the entranceway. And as if it wasn't completely obvious this wasn't Sting, because the only people it appeared to fool were, I think, Gene Okerlund,
Mm-hmm.
Lex, and Liz. And to make it extra obvious it's not actually him, whoever this shadowy figure was took his wig off and waved it around on the stage. And then Hogan, it was weird because like the whole idea was to set Hogan up to just attack Lex. But Lex turned around and Hogan waited for a full beat before he even moved at him. So it like completely defeated the purpose of attacking him. Um, he attacks Lex and then does what I think might be the worst atomic drop of all time on Liz. And yes, she's not
Yes.
a wrestler, but it's an atomic drop.
Mm-hmm. She can fall on her ass.
Yeah. And now, one thing I'll say, Lee, about all this is a bullshit angle. It made no sense. We know with the benefit of hindsight that it goes nowhere that's interesting, fun, or good.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment, it's hot in the building, though.
Yeah, because it's Hogan in New York.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the only reason.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Kidman and Tori filming each other backstage. You can insert your own joke there. That's too low hanging a fruit from even me to make a crack about.
I'm just surprised somebody backstage at a camera that wasn't Sean Stasiak.
Yeah, true. Um, Jeff is back in his office, and with Hall pulling weird faces behind him, decides to put Oklahoma in charge of the women's division. So if you thought that storyline was over,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, baby. Next up, we have Vampiro versus Kidman versus The Wall. And I gotta say, this match was characterized by two men trying very hard to make one man look good. Kidman and Vampiro are lashing themselves around, trying to make The Wall look like a monster. And God bless them, they don't achieve it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say, Vampiro nearly kills Billy Kidman stone dead by trying to do like some sort of a launch, kind of like a rocket launch or a just some pop
Mm-hmm.
up throw Kidman up in the air thing. Nearly fucking kills both of them doing it. I don't know how you miscommunicate something that basic, and like Kidman falls about 3 feet short of the wall and eats shit on the canvas. Um, of course, because this is 2000, Wall eats two unprotected chair shots from Kidman, which he completely no sells. Kidman then goes, fuck this, drop kicks the chair into Vampiro, which Vampiro charitably sells for about 3 seconds. And then in a very contrived spot, Wall gives Vampiro a choke slam off the top. And it
Yep.
took longer than I think the rest of the match to set up that one spot.
Yeah. Big guys like The Wall should not be on the top rope trying to set up moves. Um, yeah, just a very odd match.
Yeah. Very, very not great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Next up, we had a clip for your favorite movie, Shutter Speed.
Mm.
Yes. For those people who have kind of waited until it was a numbered episode, going back into the feed, I do urge you to go back as Lee and friend of the show, Kieran Lefort, dissect the celluloid masterpiece of real estate Steve Borden's Shutter Speed. Can you sum up very briefly what that film was, either
Mm-hmm.
the quality of it or what it was fucking about?
What the film was like is it was a direct to TV movie masterpiece of the year 2000. Um,
That
we
seems
had
sincere.
we had Sting in the role of a detective who all the people around him get mysteriously murdered by this unnamed villain, and we go from there. Look, Dave, it's as awesome as it sounds.
I'll agree with that. It's as awesome as it sounds. As I messaged to you and you noted on the show when you reviewed it, I had actively tried to suppress my memories having seen Shutter Speed. Um, Next up, the Mamelukes are being interviewed. Their new word for this week is Fazanooks. Um, they are appalled at the fact that once again they have to face the team of Gormbar. And I have to say, I am also appalled at I was having to be subjected to this again. Lane and Idol to excess interrupt saying they want a shot. Johnny says, why don't we just break their thumbs? Which is like is a quality solution out of that problem. Uh Vito trying to put a button on the end of this promo and like give them an excuse to walk out of the scene completely forgets that they're shooting this before their match because he goes, yeah, we're getting out of here to go get some food. Even though like in real time on the show they're wrestling in about 20 minutes.
I mean, they could still be
Um
going to get some food.
they could be. Might be a nice place on the corner. Who am I to say? Um Non-title hardcore match, Rick Steiner versus Sid Vicious. Fuck's sake. I will say, very funny seeing Rick come out in dogface gremlin gear to the Varsity Club music.
It's the exact same note I have.
Yeah. It's funny and it makes him look like an idiot. Long may it continue.
Yeah. Look, I've been over this many times. Every time he comes up on this show, I have so little time for this fucking version of Rick Steiner.
Yeah. Crowd brawl immediately. Rick, I'll tell you, nearly kills Sid Vicious on TV by doing what I think is the most botched attempt at a vertical suplex I've seen in a long time. All he has to do is suplex Sid over the rail through the shitty table. And you would think once you get Sid up, Sid is a big guy. The momentum is going to carry him through. Oh no. He nearly plants this man like a fence post on top of the barricades.
Yep.
Really bad. It's all Rick as they brawl up the stage, smashes Sid's face into the plastic kind of hockey barricades. When all of a sudden a disembodied bat appears and fucking bops both of them on the head. But conveniently, Sid is bopped last, falls on top of Rick and wins.
I mean, look, I think it's an historic moment. I think we saw the WCW debut of Mark Henry's son.
Yes, clearly. It's not in my top 5 favorite dumb WCW finishes. I have to say, it's gonna take a while to top
Yep.
Sting being mauled by a dog.
I was just gonna say death by dog.
Death by dog.
Just an incredibly stupid fucking finish. Like, why is there somebody hiding behind a curtain with a baseball bat?
Yeah. The thing is, I can't remember who this ends up being or if they even say who it was, but I know I'm not going to like it.
I hope it was Medusa. Just
Kim and DDP arrive and then Hogan leaves. We then get, and I know, Lee, you've been chomping at the bit to review this match, so I'm just going to leave this one to you. This is DDP versus The Machine, and no, not Bert Kreischer.
no. It's also not the Machine from Dragon Star either. It's not Hakeem the Machine.
Oh my God. If Hakeem the Machine had come out, I would have fucking lost my shit.
I mean, that's a guy you want to put the world out on.
Oh, all of them.
But no, this is not the Machine, Hakeem. It is, in fact, Emery Hale as the Machine. Emery Hale has been a long-time jobber in WCW under multiple gimmicks.
Not really. So, hold on.
He's been doing jobs since 95. I looked him up on Cage Match.
Oh, did you? Oh,
yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, okay. Oh, you're right. Yeah. So, no, since 98.
I was 98. Sorry. 98.
Yeah. It's only 98. So, this guy, his matches, in his entire career, because you're making it seem like he was there all the time. In his entire career, which goes from 95 to 2002, he has only ever had 37 matches.
Okay.
Right. So let's reel back on he had 3 matches in 1998.
Okay.
On WCW. There were 3 Nitro matches. He has a Saturday night match in 99 and a worldwide match in 99 where Mike Enos defeated him. This is his last TV appearance ever.
Oh, okay. So this is his last match.
On one of the major shows, should I say.
Okay.
He does have what I assume must have been taped right after this. He has 5 more Saturday night matches. Do you want to hear? Sorry, he's 4 more Saturday nights and 1 worldwide. Would you like to hear the Mac classics he's involved in after this?
Let's go for it. Yeah.
So he immediately, by the way, this is the only time he's ever billed as the Machine. He goes straight back to Hale after this. So after this match, Hale defeats Chad Hart, one of your favorites. The next taping, Hale defeats Chuck Coates, which is definitely made up. Then Hale defeats Mike Jones. Then Hale defeats Cassidy Riley.
Ah.
And in his final WCW match, Hale defeats Rick Fuller.
Oh, poor Rick Fuller.
So he to be fair, he walks out with WCW on a 5-match win streak.
I'm sure he wasn't very coordinated when he was walking out, but he walked out.
Man, you want to talk about things that we could watch as like a forfeit to a prop bet? Which would be worse, right? Going down a bit of Puerto Rico way and watching a 7-minute Big Hale versus Abdullah the Butcher match in 2001. Or you can have any one of the following also in 2001. His 2-match series with Greg Valentine.
Jesus.
Or his singles matches with either Marty Jannetty or Horace Hogan. All for the XWF.
Look, I get it. The guy was big and jacked.
Yeah. He is the classic image of that video of the guy who, like, he's so jacked they put the post-it note in the middle of his shoulder blades and he can't get it. Like that kind of immobile, like he looks inflated, not jacked. But anyway, talk about this.
But there's only one bit to talk about. And Machine hits like a Russian leg sweep and a world's strongest slam. He goes to the top. So he goes to the top rope, DDP, gets to his feet, hits the rope that's opposite of where Hale is positioned on the top rope. A world war happens and finishes. Multiple presidencies by Donald Trump. And then,
empires rise and fall, mountains crumble to the sea.
And then Hale leaps. And I do want to emphasize that he leaps into the air and lands 3/4 of the way down the rope to the other corner and crotches himself.
Yeah.
There is so much time between DDP shaking, I'm doing the inverted commas, shaking the ropes, and Hale launching himself onto his balls.
Tremendous.
It is one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in my near 40 years of watching wrestling.
I think I'm going to keep an eye out, by the way, not to steamroll over that tremendous bit of bad wrestling, but I'm wondering if, because like obviously Paige loves to hit his diamond cutters out of nowhere, right? I'm wondering if the kind of like the bowling shoe ugly code for I don't think my opponent is worth a fuck is the only kind of surprise diamond cutter he can trust this guy with is the float over DDT diamond cutter, because it's the one where all he has to do is stand still and Paige jumps around him and does it.
Also, I do think you see a bit more of that around this time because obviously Dwayne had got the float over DDT really over. So this was Paige's response.
We get a double bill of Flair and Funk recaps, a recap and then a video.
And
I will say the style of WCW video packages does not suit a feud that has spanned generations of television.
And you know what's making it worse, Dave?
What?
They are now billing. Now, bear in mind, these are two of the biggest stars on the roster they have currently. Because, as we said, the roster isn't that good.
Two of the biggest like names this brand has ever been identified with.
They are now calling it a Legends match, Dave.
Yeah.
You want to talk about just burying.
Yeah.
Burying these
Funnily enough,
guys.
Hogan didn't volunteer for that branding for Age in the Cage a few years ago. Weird that, isn't it?
Or him and Luger, which,
Yeah.
they've also both been wrestling since the mid 80s.
It's almost like, right, crazy, I know. It's almost like certain people in this company really wanted Ric Flair to quit and not be there anymore. It's almost like they were communicating very subtle messages to him that we're done with you.
What gives you that idea, Dave?
I don't know, just one of my crazy notions. Maybe I'm just too sleep deprived from the baby and I'm just pulling stuff out of whole cloth. Who's to say?
Yeah.
Um, Aaron gets interviewed about being the prettiest girl at the dance. He's caught between his oldest friend, Ric Flair, and his new associate, Terry Funk. Uh, Funnily enough, again, in keeping with the theme of when old guys have microphones in front of them, he immediately trashed the entire company and said these two men are the only real wrestlers.
Yep.
But it's a great promo as well.
Yeah, it's an Aaron promo.
Yeah. So unlike the promo earlier with Hogan, where it's all brother Jack and you kind of tune out of when he's talking, this is a promo where Aaron trashed the entire company, but did it with such a passion that you're like, fuck yeah, Aaron, everyone is terrible.
Get out, Aaron. Save yourself.
Yeah. We've got Tank Abbott versus Viano 4.
Sure.
We did get a very quick clip of Tank Abbott having his slagging match with Big Al.
Mm-hmm. It totally
Great.
would have been better if it was Mark Coleman.
Oh, 100%. Or Don Fry.
Mm-hmm.
We get Viano 4 and 5 doing twin magic, but then I do think it's a great, like, if only it was somebody that had a fucking jot of wrestling instinct and not Tank Abbott. I think this finish is very good, where they do twin magic and he just goes, I don't fucking care. And both of them get one punch knockouts. If you get a great shooter, like the Nexus is Michael Tarver in there. I was trying to think,
God.
what was the most obscure shooter gimmick I could put in there? What was that
Yeah.
cunt in ECW? Was it Sylvester Turkai?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who are some of the great shitty shooters in wrestling history, Lee?
Gunnar Scott.
Gunnar Scott.
Shitty shooter. I mean, Jerry Flynn was a shitty shooter for a little while.
Yeah. Remember when they tried to make when they were trying to WWEify Brian Danielson at the start, and they were trying to make him make you'll either snap or tap as a
Snapper tap,
catchphrase.
yeah.
They were trying to make a great shooter into a shitty shooter.
I in my distaste for modern wrestling, I went back and started watching some ECW from 1994, and Dean Malenko was introduced as the shooter. Dean Malenko from Europe.
Ooh.
And Joey Styles spends time explaining that shooter is the most dangerous form of wrestler. And the bit was that Dean Malenko would lock somebody in a move for like 14 seconds and fuck them up. And that was Malenko's gimmick until he did the matches with Eddie.
Yeah, you should watch some old ECW, man.
You should. It's really good.
Anyway, like if it wasn't for the fact that Tank fucking sucks, it was kind of a cool visual. 2 1-punch knockouts, and he's already halfway up the ramp by the time the lads are counted out.
Do you know which one he knocked out first, Dave? Which Viano?
He knocked both of them out almost simultaneously, but it was Viano 5.
Typical fucking doesn't.
No, it was Viano 5 he knocked out first, because Viano 5 gets in instead of Viano 4. He gets knocked out. The Viano 4 is like, fuck, I better get back in there, and he gets knocked out. So fuck you, Lee. You're fucking, you'll never drop that narrative. So the tag teams make their way out for a match we don't want to see. We get a bad Harris Brothers promo that I did not write one word about out of principle.
Well, they said they're not going to be held back anymore, Dave. That's what you have to know.
Yeah, because really, them being held back was the problem. Terry Funk, hold them back more, I say. Terry Funk wants Aaron to take him to the prom. And then we get a non-title tag team match as Gormbar takes on the the Mamalukes.
Before we get to the Mameluke tag match, can I just say Terry Funk walks into a room where Aaron is sat with Mike Graham, and Mike Graham is talking to Aaron, and Aaron has this expression on his face that I imagine every person that's ever spoke to Mike Graham has on their face when Mike Graham is speaking.
He's that guy who gets stuck in a corner with talking to a party and you're making the panicked eyes for somebody to
Mm-hmm.
come and get you or fake a phone call or something.
He is so uninterested, and it's just like, yeah, I get it.
Um, we are told, and it is I tell you, Tony is delighted to tell us, and I'm delighted to hear it, that Gormless idiot David Flair doesn't speak anymore. So that's good at
Ah,
least.
uh,
There's a bit where I did appreciate this. I thought this was funny that as she has been doing for weeks now, Miss Hancock comes out with her clipboard and starts to do the kind of the sultry Miss Hancock walk to the ring. Daphne sees this, screams at her until she runs away.
she screams her down.
Yeah. Obviously there will be much more on this dynamic with Gormbar,
Mm-hmm.
Daphne, and Miss Hancock going forwards. And if you don't know where it goes, boy, howdy, will you be surprised. Um, I did write Daphne screams at Miss Hancock. She's only human. Uh,
Well,
this is an
I have to ask, what did you think of Disco's EasyJet flight attendant get up?
yes, it's. I mean, I guess it's great in terms of the whole idea is that he's a shithead,
Hmm.
so it's kind of perfect because he looks like a shithead. Um, I feel like I don't want to get really into this match because if I look back on my Thunder 97 notes for this match, it's probably exactly the same because this is another, we're just going to do the same match again.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I don't have extensive notes on the match. I just think it's a mostly solid,
fine.
like, fine little match.
It's very pedestrian.
Hmm.
Crowbar is trying to do his best as clearly the most competent worker in there. And one thing I'll say is like it's not there for Vito yet. Like he does get better, as we said. But one thing I do note is that he's very tuned into crowd reactions.
Hmm.
So he's trying to work the crowd almost more than he's trying to work the lads in the ring, where he's constantly like John with the crowd or doing a taunt or signaling to the crowd this is a moment where you're supposed to react. And I think those are instincts not everybody has right at the start. So I think that's something to be, even if this match was a little flat, it's something that he's one of very few people in this company now because the hot acts that are brilliant are getting reactions and don't need to worry about it. But other people who aren't getting reactions, of whom there are many in this company, no one seems to be really caring about trying to get a reaction.
Hmm.
And he is trying to go, okay, what do the crowd want here? What's the feel? And I do appreciate that. Um, it's a gold-plated crowbar finish where David hits Vito on the back of the head when the referee is distracted, and crowbar pins him. Yeah,
It's crow. Yeah, Vito gets hit with the crowbar, and crowbar the man falls into the pin.
yes. Then we get it's your Sid segment, which means Lee is taking the office here. The 2-on-1 handicap cage heat match. Sid versus the Harris brothers.
I mean, what do you want me to say? It's a fucking Harris Brothers handicap match against Sid's at the end of a Thunder.
Right. Here's one thing I have to say, and it's something I tweeted about, is that I measure how old I'm getting by how much things in cage matches annoy me. One of the chief things that annoys me, I do get pretty annoyed by interference in cage matches,
Mm,
but I'll tell you what has screamed past that as my number one thing that annoys me at cage matches is when a cage match starts outside the ring.
yes.
This has only been great once, and it was Hell in the Cell 98. Only been good once. Not only
Um,
that, but this goes the extra mile to piss me off. Is like not only does the brawling start outside the ring, but the ref rings the fucking bell. So if you
well,
ring the bell and they're brawling outside the ring, they're also both immediately have escaped the cage. So it's over.
here's the thing, Dave. If they didn't start the match outside the ring, you would not have had the great moment of one of the Harris brothers not being able to get into the ring.
Yeah. Can I tell you as well how much like it's such a petty thing that their default cage now has a lid on it. Like I know in war games and stuff like that they had the lid, but like 100% of them keeping the lid on the cage now in the post Hell in a Cell era is to make them having a lidded cage less special.
Mm-hmm.
And it results in, as far back as like when they were doing it in War Games and had the low ceiling, and it was Pillman got fucked up, was it? Or
Yeah.
was it?
Pillman went up first to powerbomb and
Yeah.
couldn't rotate properly, basically.
Yeah. Just fucking throw the lid off, lads. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a cage. Fucking don't fuck with it too much. Yeah, there's not really much else I can say about this. Like, it's just not good. No one on earth believes the Harris brothers have a chance of winning this match in a legitimate way, so no one buys into it.
Well,
They're just waiting for Sid to hit a choke slam.
well, Dave, I will say at 2 points in this matchup, we get Sid chance. And if that
Yeah.
doesn't speak to how over this guy actually is, with
Yeah,
the crowd that remains, I know it's dwindled.
Yeah.
But like this guy is over as a babyface champion.
And of course, WCW reading the room are like, do you know what we have to do? Is that Sid will win, but at 3.1, the cage is coming up and the entire NWO is going to beat the shit out of him until we go off the air.
Well, no, not the entire NWO, because of course Scott Hall is backstage with the enormous
With the
controls in his hands.
Yeah. And Nash, of course, at home icing that foot. And it doesn't quite end on that because you also have Jeff getting the headset and cutting. Like, here's the thing, right? And I think maybe one of the many frustrating things about when Jeff Jarrett is pushed into the main event is we all know Jeff Jarrett has a bit of charisma.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, at times where it's maybe most needed, where this guy needs to be cutting fire promos about like positioning himself as the soon to be top heel in the company, it just vacates his body. And he cuts the same boring promos all the time. Like, I wish he's one of those guys where I kind of like it's a less extreme example of like, people always say if you could put the brain and the talking ability of Samoa Joe now into the body of Samoa Joe from 20 years ago. If you could put the kind of like, I don't give a shit, I'm just having fun, last run Jeff Jarrett brain where he can talk and he's comfortable on the microphone and he's like in touch with the crowd into the body of late 20s, early 30s Jeff Jarrett, you've got a hell of a guy on your hands here.
Yeah. Look, we've said it, like we've been saying it for the last year on the show at least, that like 2024, 2025 Jeff Jarrett is like an addition to AEW TV.
Yeah.
But 2000s WCW Jeff Jarrett is not a guy that you want to be seeing in main events.
It's the Garrett Kidney hypothesis is that the closer to the main event Jeff Jarrett is, the less fun it is.
Yeah, for sure.
And if anyone's going to know about that phenomenon, it's Garrett Kidney, long-suffering TNA man.
Yes, very, very, very true. But yeah, no, he like, and it's like you say, he gets on the headset to cut this promo after they've beat down Sid, and it's just a total nothing. He just insults the announcers and then goes, I'm going to be the world champ.
Which he already said. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do a beatdown at the end of the show, do it in a way where maybe you do an injury angle where, like, it's, is Sid actually going to make it to the pay-per-view? Because it was just a bog standard beatdown that didn't last very long. Like, apart from the embarrassment of getting spray painted, I guess. Well, I mean, you're not doing anything.
It's like fucking 8 years of the NWO. Everybody's been spray painted at this point.
Yeah, but also, like, tell me, like, the only actual movement, like, I do believe in the maxim is that if you're going to visit an angle on TV that's building to a pay-per-view, you need to advance the story somewhat, right? And the only segment that furthered along this world heavyweight title feud was a comedy segment where they got a crooked ref. There was a whole main event segment and a brawl and a promo into the headset and an opening show promo as well that achieved nothing.
Also, must point out
because Sid got through all three matches, and I don't believe that Sid is in any way hurt or less than 100%.
I must point out, well, he did try and sell that he was injured from Mike Rotunda's shoe fighting.
Yeah, but like in a way that kind of like injured in a kind of having to do 3 matches in a night type way, not a, oh, I'm worried that in 18 days at the pay-per-view, the injuries suffered at the hands of Mike Rotunda.
I must point out that the crooked ref was in fact the ref in the cage and had no hand in the outcome at all.
Nothing to do with anything. He counted the pin, forced it.
Yeah.
Proving again, to evoke him again, the Brian Alvarez thing is that no one can do the heel referee thing right, so stop doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. That is your thunder for this week. Lee, give us your overall thoughts on the show and your winners and losers.
God, it was not a good show. You know what? The crowd was pretty hot because obviously it's an area of the country that wouldn't get regular WCW. Like you said, it's a part of New York that WWF wouldn't run, so that's why WCW are there. I thought the crowd was decent all night. Sid got great reactions all throughout the night every time he came out, so I think Sid is the big winner of the show in that sense. Yeah. I don't think there's anybody that's worse off because of the show, but it's what we just said. It's that general feeling of like the NWO are just shitty heels and they have control of the company, and it's just we've seen it. We've seen this for the past fucking 4 years. Like it's just now Hogan and Bischoff are the same person. It's just the lead heel also has control of the company. It's not that interesting.
Your finish counter, brought to you by Ludwig Borga, has 9 matches with an astonishing 7 clean finishes, 1 interference leading directly to a finish, and 1 finish via haunted bat. This has been your...
Is that where we're going with haunted bat?
Haunted bat. That's what I've settled on after much debate. This has been the return of Days of Thunder. Thank you so much for sticking with us during our absence from the airwaves. It's good to be back. Not watching WCW. It's good to be back with my mate Lee, bullshitting on the air. It's good to be back in everybody's ears. And we'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the #1 show all about the world of Joshi Pro Wrestling. Episodes drop every other Monday, where we discuss the biggest Joshi news, review shows, and preview the hottest upcoming Joshi action.
So whether you're a new fan or an old fan, we've got something here for you at Jumping Bomb Audio.
Check us out on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.